Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. It's a year today since the Iranian woman Ms Amini died in custody after being detained by the Islamic Republic's security forces. It was alleged the 22-year-old had flouted the country's dress laws by not wearing a headscarf. Her death prompted the biggest wave of anti-regime demonstrations in 4 decades and resulted in hundreds of deaths of protesters. Today, the authorities appear to be braced for more protests and earlier arrested Massa's father, who was then released. Her mother has thanked all those who have supported the family. This is what she had to say. 1 year has passed since our beloved daughter, child Massa, ascended to the sky, a year in which every moment was full of sadness and grief. From the very first day after our dear Massa passed away, our kind and signified fellow Iranians have consoled our broken hearts by visiting our daughter's grave, calling and sending us kind messages. Our correspondent, Sahar Zand, is with me, as you can see, in the studio. Nice to see you. A very poignant day, of course. First, tell me what happened to Ms Amini's father.
The harassment and intimidations towards the family is nothing new. Her uncle was arrested a few days ago, and even his family haven't heard from him. No one knows where he is or what's happened to him. Her lawyer has been arrested. The journalist that covered the news of her killing has been arrested. The family, we know that were warned and threatened against attending her grave, especially on the anniversary, and holding any kind of event. A few days ago, they did, on their Instagram, Massa's mom and dad release a statement saying they will be doing that. And of course, we know that he was interrogated a few times, warned a few times, and then he was arrested. Ms Amini's father reportedly is back home now, but since this morning there were a few security forces around their house, and now the latest reports are that him and the rest of the family are under home arrest. They're not allowed to even leave.
That's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's not all. I mean, in the Kurdish region of Iran, which is where Ms Amini is from and buried, and the family is from, it's been highly militarized. The internet is completely cut off. The internet is quite patchy elsewhere in the country, and it's very hard for them to get in touch with anyone and get the news outside. But we know that there were a few military convoys going towards the border in that direction. We know that Ms Amini's grave was surrounded by security forces, by tanks. And today, the latest news that I got only a few minutes ago is that a young man who was on his way to the cemetery was actually shot in the head, and he's now in hospital with his conditions very critical. Furthermore, the whole of the cemetery, there are security guards surrounding it right now, not allowing anybody inside. And the road, there is only one road that gets you to the cemetery, and they've shut that whole road completely. And you might recall from last year, those big protests around Ms Amini's grave, which was on the 40th day of her anniversary, on the 40th day of her death's anniversary. Yeah. And hundreds of thousands showed up from across Iran to go to her grave. And they have blocked that very road, so it's completely shut off. One other thing about Kurdistan as well, before I tell you about the rest of the country, because I've been with the leaders, with the protest leaders that are working on the ground in Iran. Kurdistan, the business owners were all warned against taking part in the protest, and in response, they have now gone on a complete strike, and most of the shops in the whole of the city, in the whole of the region, in fact, are closed.
Actually, we've got 30 seconds. Is the pressure getting to the Iranian authorities then?
I mean, look at the way they're responding. They're responding with tanks, with helicopters, with military convoys, with full force. It looks like they're gearing up for a full war against their own citizens. Would you be reacting like that if you weren't scared? And that is what I'm hearing from the protesters I'm speaking to inside of Iran.
All right, we'll see how things develop during the course of the day, won't we? Thank you very much indeed for now.